Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, Mr. President Pro Tem, members of the General Assembly, and my fellow Virginians. It is with great pride in our shared history that we return tonight to our historic capital. This capital is entering its 220th year of service as home to the oldest continuous legislature in the New World. The careful renovation of this historic place is a tangible tribute to the men and women who have served here and to the people that they have served. The more substantial tribute to our predecessors is not the building we work in, but the work that we do and the way that we do it. Today, the Capitol resumes its service as Jefferson's Temple on the Hill to democracy, where the elected representatives of the people gather each year as the General Assembly of Virginia. On behalf of all Virginians, I say to you tonight, welcome home. I especially want to welcome those of you who took your oaths of office for the first time today, joining that long tradition of public service to the Commonwealth. Public service is a calling. I'm grateful to work with so many good Virginians who have heard and answered that call. The General Assembly is only one way to serve, and many of you, most of you, have answered calls to serve in other ways as well. There are educators among you. There are doctors and former local elected officials. There are public safety officers and military veterans. This is not your first or only service to your communities. But service here in Jefferson's capital is a privilege and a sacred trust. These halls have witnessed Virginians of every city and county, men and women, people of all races from every walk of life, rise to the challenge of self-government. Tonight, as we see other nations in turmoil, suffering violence over claims of leadership and authority, we are reminded what a privilege it is to hold an election, pass power from one president to another, one governor to another, one legislator to another peacefully, and with the conviction that whatever region or party our leadership hails from, they serve us all. This accomplishment cannot be taken for granted. It's been paid for in blood. And even today, Virginians serve in places of grave danger, helping to preserve the civil society we enjoy and helping advance freedom in other lands. Here at home, our society is not held together by force or by fear, but by the continued consent of the citizens to engage in this common effort. You and I have a responsibility to those citizens to bring our knowledge and experiences, our best ideas, our visions for the future to the public debate. We should speak boldly for what we believe and not hesitate to defend our principles. We should give voice to those who cannot be heard. But we also have a responsibility to listen. Because no one person, no one region, no one party holds all the right answers. We should advance the best ideas no matter where they originate. We should put our constituents before our political parties, our campaign supporters, even ourselves. Because when a father is sick and his job doesn't offer health insurance, he doesn't need a Northern Virginia health plan or a Southwest Virginia health plan. He needs a doctor. When a family is struggling to send their child to a university, she doesn't need a Senate bill or a House of Delegates resolution. She needs an education. When a Virginian is laid off from work, he doesn't need a Democratic strategy or a Republican strategy. He needs a job. We're sent here by our constituents to address the challenges of our day, some as old as our government and some far beyond the imagination of our founding fathers. And we are sent here to work through honest differences of opinion, to craft solutions that do the greatest good for the greatest number of Virginians. We're sent here to serve. And we have to remember that our service will not be measured by how it affects the few hundred people here on Capitol Square. Our service will be measured by how it affects the 7.5 million Virginians who aren't on Capitol Square. We can't ignore our political parties, our regional interests, or our personal concerns when our differences of opinion arise from commitment to ideals rather than a desire to win a political battle. They lead to our best solutions. Like you, I believe strongly in my vision of how our government should operate, but I pledge to you that I will hear your beliefs and those of our constituents, and I'll work with you to find solutions to these challenges that are better than those you or I could design on our own. As Jefferson wrote, a government held together by bands of reason only requires much compromise of opinion. The act of compromise and working together is not a weakness, it's a sign of our dedication to getting things done. And so together, our collective experience, shared wisdom, commitment to all Virginians will help us answer the tough challenges we face just as generations of Virginians before us have done. My friends, when we transcend our differences and when we work together for the common good, the state of the Commonwealth is very strong. In the past year, the whole world watched as we recognized the 400th anniversary of the founding of America right here on Virginia soil. The anniversary gave us a chance to reconnect to that tradition of excellence in public service that's the hallmark of our history. Thanks to your hard work and to the dedication of more than 100,000 state employees, Virginia has gathered an impressive list of accolades this year. For example, as our Department of Health prepares this year to celebrate its 100th year of service, they've helped Virginia capture one of the highest rankings in the nation for preparedness for public health emergencies. Virginia was named the best state for business in the nation in 2007 by Forbes.com, CNBC, and other business publications. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation, and our average wages are among the highest. And with your support for the Governor's Opportunity Fund, we announced creation of over 15,000 new jobs in 2007. Just yesterday, we started 2008 off with a great economic development victory. RTI International, a titanium processing firm, will invest $100 million and bring 150 high-paying manufacturing jobs to the Martinsville, Henry County region. Virginia's per capita state and local tax burden as a percent of income ranks 43rd, one of the lowest in the nation. And our per capita income is the 9th highest in America. Our fiscal stewardship has been rewarded with rare AAA bond ratings by each of the 3 major rating agencies. According to Education Week, children born in Virginia have the best chance of life success of children born anywhere in the nation. 10 Virginia high schools made the Newsweek's top 100 high school list this year, and 3 of our public universities made U.S. News and World Report's top 100. There were many reasons to celebrate in Virginia this past year. But there have also been darker days. Even in moments of tragedy, Virginians have shown that our commitment to each other is strong. Some of those who dedicate themselves to public service gave their lives as part of their commitment this year. In 2007, over 28 members of the armed forces from Virginia gave their lives in service to our country. 2 law enforcement officers and 1 firefighter also gave their lives in the line of duty this year. We are awed by this commitment to serving others, and together we mourn their loss. Last April, we faced one of the darkest days in Virginia's history when 32 students and teachers were killed and many others wounded on the campus of Virginia Tech. In the days following the shootings, we mourned together. We faced troubling questions. And we were inspired by the indomitable spirit of the Virginia Tech community. Their commitment to healing reminded us that we owe it to the victims and their families to bring light out of the darkness of this tragedy by addressing the problems that it would reveal. I'd like to invite you to stand and join me in a moment of silence now to honor those victims and their families and for all who gave their lives in service this year. you. The grief of that terrible day is still with us, but we haven't forgotten the example of the Virginia Tech students and their indomitable spirit, nor have we been idle. In the best tradition of setting aside our differences to do what's best for the Commonwealth, a remarkable coalition has come together to work to prevent such a day from ever happening again. Together, all three branches of government have studied the challenge of delivering mental health services more effectively. I want to thank Chief Justice Fiscal and key legislative leaders for all their foresight and work in this area. 6% of Virginians have a serious mental illness. 1 in 4 citizens of the Commonwealth has some form of diagnosable mental illness, and most of us have been directly impacted by mental illness among our friends, families, co-workers. We know firsthand the magnitude of the problem and the pain that it causes. But due to chronic underfunding and an insufficient focus on the quality of care, our mental health system has not measured up to the needs of Virginia's mentally ill. The limited capacity of local community service boards and the strain on overloaded case managers mean that thousands of Virginians with mental health needs are not getting treatment when they need it, and many are not getting treatment at all. To expand and improve outpatient services, we must increase funding for additional clinicians and case managers. We must increase support for community services. We must do a better job of keeping people with mental illness from entering the criminal justice system and provide better treatment to individuals when they're in jail. We have to not only correct the historic underfunding of community mental health services, but we also have to demand greater accountability in the provision of care. Better outcomes for Virginians who are mentally ill demand a more uniform system of emergency response times, admissions criteria, and staff requirements. We can help provide people with the treatment they need by adjusting commitment standards, ensuring that emergency orders are long enough to allow expert admissions to take place, and we need to clarify responsibilities of all parties in diagnosis, treatment, and follow-up. If we identify people with mental illnesses and provide them with the proper treatment and support, we serve them and we serve our communities better. And we can provide better services to our children. The way we serve our young through the innovative Comprehensive Services Act is in need of significant reform. If we make necessary changes so that young people receive services in community-based or foster care settings rather than over-relying on expensive congregate care facilities, we will help our children have a greater chance at life success. Beyond better community mental health services, the shootings at Virginia Tech point out some other areas where changes are needed. Both state and federal law prohibit a person who has been found to be, by a court, to be a danger to himself or others from buying a firearm. But until last April, there was no clear policy in Virginia stating that a person ordered to involuntary outpatient treatment should be reported to the Central Criminal Records Exchange and kept from purchasing a weapon. With the help of Attorney General Bob McDonnell, I issued an executive order in April to clarify that all who are determined mentally ill and dangerous should be included in the state database. This then helped spur Congress to pass meaningful bipartisan legislation to encourage the same result on a national level. This session, we need to codify that executive order to ensure that persons who are a danger to themselves or others are not allowed to buy a gun. And as you're closing that important loophole, I want to ask you to close an even larger one. Since 1991, Virginia has required that anyone purchasing any type of firearm from a licensed dealer undergo a background records check. This instant computerized check is designed to prevent a felon or other dangerous person from buying a gun. This law was a huge public safety advance in Virginia, and it protects average citizens and our law enforcement professionals from harm. However, a loophole still exists in this important measure. Anyone can walk into a gun show in Virginia and purchase a firearm with no background check. I support Second Amendment rights. I believe that Virginia's laws generally strike the right balance between protecting that right consistent with the demands of public safety. But if we are to enforce our current law, keeping guns out of the hands of dangerous individuals, we must require instant background checks for purchases of weapons at gun shows. There's no reason for law-abiding gun owners or gun sellers to oppose the instant check. In fact, most purchasers go through a check every time they buy a gun. It's instantaneous, it creates no permanent record of the transaction, and it will keep weapons away from people whom the law has determined shouldn't have them. Why should we allow felons, or people with serious mental illnesses, or domestic abusers who have been constrained by protective orders to buy weapons at gun shows in violation of clear state and federal law? If we fail to take this important step, we leave the door open for these dangerous individuals to gain easy access to guns so that they can harm other people. Now, while we've worked here in Richmond to respond to the April tragedy, Virginia's colleges and universities have also taken action. They've strengthened relationships with local law and mental health agencies. They've implemented new ways of communicating with students and faculty in the case of emergencies. And our schools are doing a good job by working together, sharing ideas and best practices so that they can make our campuses safer. This session, we'll continue to work together with our colleges and universities, public and private, and keep our focus on what they need to protect and serve their students and staff. Now, we know that we cannot prevent all crime, so we have to look for ways to comfort crime victims. This year, we have an opportunity to make significant changes to how we treat victims of sexual assault. The physical and emotional trauma suffered by victims of sexual violence, often compounded by silence and stigma surrounding the crime, calls for our very special attention. It is imperative that victims of these crimes not be re-traumatized during an investigation. And we have an opportunity this session to do what is right in this area if we can prohibit involuntary polygraph testing of our victims, pay for the collection of evidence used to prosecute attackers, repeal antiquated laws that provide safe haven for offenders, and give adequate support to community centers. If we can do these things, we will have gone a long way towards setting our system right and protecting crime victims. The evolution of technology has made our lives more convenient. Unfortunately, as technology evolves, so does crime. Last year, credit fraud and identity theft reached all-time highs. And while anyone with a Social Security number or credit card could become a victim, these crimes hit hardest when they target senior citizens or those who live on limited incomes. This year, we can give Virginia citizens the tools they need to protect themselves from these crimes by requiring companies and government agencies to notify consumers when sensitive data has been compromised, and by allowing citizens to freeze their credit reports so that no one can open fraudulent credit in their names. Now, the initiatives I've just described are about the provision of core services such as mental health and public safety. These are the everyday responsibilities that we have to all take very seriously. But we all know that our duty extends beyond today, and we must take significant steps towards securing our Commonwealth's future. Virginia is in a strong position to compete in today's global economy. We're connected to the rest of the world through our international airport at Dulles and through our port at Hampton Roads. Much of the world's internet communication passes through Northern Virginia, and we're investing in advanced communications infrastructure throughout rural Virginia. Virginia's workforce is among the most skilled in the nation, and I talk to other governors, and I know that our educational system and quality of life are the envy of many other states. We've just finished 5 years in a row of consecutive economic growth. But we do have economic challenges. Virginia has been affected by the cooling national housing market. Today, too many Virginians face the threat of foreclosure. Rising energy prices, tightening credit requirements, a turbulent stock market continue to make our economy very volatile and we must monitor and will monitor this situation very closely. The Virginia economy is still expanding, but expanding at an uncharacteristically slow rate. Since 1980, the average growth of our economy has been 7.5% a year. In fiscal years 2008 and 2009, projected revenue growth is less than half that average. Economists believe that the Virginia economy will emerge from slow growth beginning next year, but to be conservative, our fiscal year 2010 forecast, reached after consultation with industry leaders and representatives of both parties, is nearly a full percentage point below our historic norm. So our tight budget requires careful scrutiny of every dollar we spend. We need to ask tough questions about everything we do. We have to adhere to the traditions we have of fiscal responsibility and make ourselves accountable for how we spend taxpayers' dollars. In the proposed budget, we've tightened the belt, just like families and businesses do when they face tough times. We've made targeted cuts of nearly $300 million a year in both the caboose bill and the biennial budget, and our agencies are finding ways to deliver services more efficiently. We've instituted accountability measures in all key areas of spending, but we can't stand still. Slow revenue is not an excuse for inaction or pessimism or panic. If we are to retain our position as a leader among states, we have to continue to invest and innovate. The best way to grow our economy is to support an education system that will expand opportunity and prepare our workforce for the jobs of tomorrow. Because of the work that you and so many others do, we have an outstanding education system, but that doesn't mean that there isn't room to improve. We know a lot more today than we did 50 or even 10 years ago, which means we can make even smarter investments to help our children prepare and help our communities be successful. For example, current research shows that 90% of a child's brain development occurs before a child turns 5. We know that children who attend high-quality preschool are more likely to finish school, find good jobs, and less likely to commit crimes. We also know that if a child is unable to read by the 3rd grade, there is a significantly greater chance that that child will not be successful during the remainder of his or her educational career. I know we all agree that kids need opportunities to succeed, and there is no doubt expanding the Virginia Preschool Initiative, your Virginia Preschool Initiative, from 13,000 students to nearly 20,000 children will give a better start to those children who need it most. In developing this proposal, we assembled a Start Strong Council that included education experts, business leaders, children's advocates, local elected officials, and legislators of both parties. We've drawn on the experiences of the Virginia Preschool Initiative, now 11 years old, and of the pilot projects that you approved last session. I've also been in dialogue with many of you and listened to your advice, carefully studying the report by J. Lark that was completed this past fall. So working together, we've designed a proposal that's targeted, proven effective, and essential to our children's success. The proposal that I offer increases state support for cities and counties that offer pre-kindergarten programs. It makes more at-risk students eligible for high-quality early childhood education. And it utilizes high-quality private providers so that more money can be spent on education and less on bricks and mortar. In addition to expanding access to preschool, the proposal will enhance quality and accountability, build collaboration among public, private, and Head Start providers, and strengthen the early childhood workforce. This is an investment in the Commonwealth's future. We must make it now so that our children can become the firefighters, police officers, teachers, delegates, senators, governors who will serve the next generation of Virginians. Of course, we have to also ensure that the gains made in early education are maintained by fully funding the re-benchmarking of the standards of quality for K-12 and maintaining at-risk monies in the budget that the General Assembly has traditionally approved. My budget makes that major investment in our public schools. And we can't guarantee excellence in our education system without high-quality teachers. During my administration, we've begun requiring regular, meaningful evaluations of public school teachers' performance. We've also made strides in bringing teacher salaries closer to the national average despite our challenging fiscal condition. I've proposed continuing that progress by funding the state share of a 3.5% pay increase for teachers and other instructional personnel to begin July 1, 2009. Continued support and improvement of our K-12 education system will make a difference in how prepared our students are when they leave high school. But we have to acknowledge a fundamental fact. In the global economy of today and tomorrow, a high school degree is just not enough. We must encourage high school graduates to continue their education at universities, four-year colleges, community colleges, career and technical programs, and we need to give those institutions what they need to serve the students who ultimately will become the workforce that drives Virginia's economic engine. Making significant new investments in higher education will create high-tech jobs through research and innovation, and this is particularly important at a time when job growth is slowing nationally. That's why I've proposed a $1.6 billion bond package to continue the acceleration of our top-notch higher education system. This investment This investment, to be phased in over the next 5 to 7 years, will provide facilities across the Commonwealth for researchers to develop new cutting-edge technologies and turn them into commercial assets. The bond package centers largely on engineering, science, business, and health professions. It will support our higher ed system's continuing efforts to build a more talented workforce fully prepared to compete and win in a global economy. If we begin these needed projects now, before construction costs go up even more, they'll be less costly than in future years, saving taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. The bond package fits well within the conservative debt service guidelines that we all care about. These capital projects are supplemented in the budget by operational funds for increased base adequacy funding, more financial aid, and an expanded focus on competitive research opportunities on our college campuses. And all of this is accompanied by a significant reform in workforce development, placing the main responsibility for this critical area in the Virginia Community College system. Friends, this is the smart strategy for government today. We secure our place in a hyper-competitive world by paying attention to the whole spectrum of our educational system. It's our catalyst for progress. Building critical skills, spurring new private sector investments in job creation, and allowing the natural talents and entrepreneurial ideas of our citizens to flourish. I ask you, and I call on all Virginians, to recognize how investments in education will enhance Virginia's well-deserved reputation as a leader in our nation's 21st century economy. This is an investment we must make, and we should make it now. You know, securing our future also means that we have to do the hard job occasionally of setting aside political rhetoric to really carefully address the most complex and challenging issues we face, issues like illegal immigration. We are a nation of laws. It is our obligation to enforce those laws. We should continually assess the consequences of illegal immigration. That's why I applaud the resolution you passed last year to put together a commission on immigration that would do so. It is equally important that we recognize the many positive benefits of legal immigration. We can't afford to let supercharged political rhetoric unfairly paint a picture of Virginians as a people who are hostile to new Americans. The debate about illegal immigration needs to begin with a recognition of steps that we've already taken. Virginia law already prohibits any person who's not legally in our country from receiving state or locally funded benefits in most instances, with just a few exceptions: education, emergency health care, or care for contagious diseases. When a Virginia state trooper comes in contact with a person suspected of being in the country illegally, that trooper contacts the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Service, ICE. 80% of those reports since March 1st of 2007 have resulted in ICE beginning deportation proceedings. The state police also works hard in regional task forces targeting violent gang activity by illegal immigrants. Our Department of Corrections notifies ICE of any foreign-born offender who's convicted and placed in state custody. Our Department of Motor Vehicles works hard every day to scrutinize driver's license information and other data to determine whether people are here lawfully. And our Virginia Guard, our courageous Guard, helps patrol the border between Arizona and Mexico to help federal enforcement agents. Virginia has done much to pick up the slack for broken federal immigration policy, and will keep doing so. There will be more proposals this year on immigration, and we should scrutinize them carefully. In doing so, we have to balance the need to enforce our laws with a few fundamental realities. 1 in 10 Virginians was born outside the United States. Most of us can trace our ancestors back to another country in only a few generations. The majority of immigrants in Virginia are legal and fully contribute, strengthening the social fabric of our communities. Our Jamestown commemoration recognized the positive and transforming power of immigration and of those that welcome immigrants. Immigration continues to invigorate our culture, provide new energy to our economy, and expand our view of the world. Did you know in 2007 that foreign companies announced over $750 million of investments in Virginia, creating over 2,000 new jobs? Many of these jobs were created in parts of our Commonwealth that are the most hungry for economic development. We're in fierce competition for those jobs. We cannot afford to give to the world the impression that Virginians are not willing to engage in commerce with people from other nations. And it's not just about new business or about foreign investments in Virginia. Many longtime Virginia businesses, especially in the agricultural sector that still represents the biggest part of the Virginia economy, are dependent upon immigrant workers. We should not punish law-abiding businesses or hinder their ability to grow and create jobs. Now, in this area, as in all others, we've got a responsibility to go beyond the sound bites, to take the debate seriously, and to spend the time it will take to craft a balanced response to our challenges. Every day, the hard work we have wrestling with difficult questions like these reminds us that we were sent here to serve. We also are reminded of who we were sent here to serve. Jefferson believed that our government belonged to citizens, not to politicians or special interests. To guarantee the continued ownership of the government by its people, we have to always look for opportunities to safeguard and improve citizen participation. This year, to help ensure that our government is by the people, we should stop narrowly limiting the reasons for which voters can request absentee ballots and allow any qualified voter who can't get to the polls on Election Day, regardless of reason, to use an absentee ballot. And I hope that we can work together to allow absentee ballots to be delivered electronically to Virginians who are serving our country overseas. We need to also guarantee that our government truly is of the people. Now, over the decades, both parties have used the drawing of legislative lines for partisan advantage, to the disadvantage of citizens and communities. Our legislative districts should be drawn with the people, not elected officials, foremost in mind. It's time to create a nonpartisan system for redistricting. With different parties in the majority in each house, now is the perfect time to make this necessary change. And finally, to help ensure the government is for the people and not for a few insiders, we should take steps to make sure that our campaign finance practices are transparent. In order to make contribution disclosure system really work, we should close the loophole that allows designated contributions to go unreported. The voters deserve to be able to see past groups that simply bundle money and know the real sources of campaign contributions. Finally, part of serving people is by showing that we listen to them. You know, last year we crafted the first significant infusion of funds into our transportation system in 2 decades. After years of inaction, we supported a compromise plan that increased rail funding statewide by over 60%, increased funding for public transit operations by over 40%, expanded funds for road construction both at the state and the regional levels, and along the way made significant advances in land use planning. You know, we're moving on projects again in Virginia, projects that would still be gathering dust on shelves if we had failed to act, and we can celebrate that achievement. But one part of the transportation package clearly isn't working in the way that I hoped, isn't working in the way that we hoped. The imposition of higher fees on drivers who commit serious traffic offenses, which I supported, was designed to both increase transportation revenue. It encompassed about 6 or 7% of the revenue of the package that we put in last year, and also encourage safer driving habits. After 6 months of implementation and a lot of examination of the results, I think it's fair to say that neither goal has come to pass. The abuse of driver fees will not generate the amount of revenue that we had hoped, and neither the number of traffic tickets issued nor the tragic number of deaths on Virginia's roads in 2007 indicate that the fees have improved highway safety. Virginia citizens in huge numbers have told us that the fees should be repealed, and we should listen to them. I hope still smarts a little bit. I hope that this session you'll send to my desk a bill fully repealing the abuse of driver fees. We have to continue to look for strategies to promote safety on the road. Last year's safety statistics tell us that. The maintenance needs of our road system have to be addressed, but the abuser fee idea has flunked with our voters. We should acknowledge it and move on. Now, I know that you will suggest ways to improve on the proposals that I've put before you today, and I look forward to a civil exchange of ideas, always keeping the needs of our citizens foremost in our minds. Jefferson wrote to John Adams, "Truth between candid minds can never do harm." You will also offer proposals. Your proposals for a vision of Virginia, for positive advances we can make for our Commonwealth, and I pledge to engage with you in good faith on the proposals that you put forward. We have much to look forward to this year. There is no greater honor for each of us than to just play our individual part in continuing and improving the legacy of enlightened self-government that has enlivened this capital for 220 years. Virginians have sent each of us here with high expectations. If we work together, we will not disappoint them. Thank you, and may God bless the Commonwealth.